Hello YouTube viewers, welcome to my channel Science to Technology. In today's show, Future Friday, we're going to talk about gravitational lensing. So let's dive right into it. Well, first, before we understand gravitational lensing, we have to understand gravity itself. So what the heck is gravity? In simplest term, if you simplify it to its core level, is just mass bending space-time. Now, what is space-time? Space-time is the basically fundamental existence of existence itself. What does that mean? That means where is this Milky Way? It is in space-time. So this whole galaxy is this whole supercluster, this whole thing exists in space-time. Now mass, basically every atom, every molecule has a mass. Now if you combine a lot of them, like let's say in case of a planet, in case of a star, in case of a galaxy, then it has massive mass. Now that mass will bend space-time. Now that bending of space-time is what we call gravity, so to say. So the reason why I'm standing here is basically space-time around me is bending. Now, you have to understand gravity was understood, even predicted, like in terms of mathematical predictability, it was done by Newton. A lot of things were done, but problem was Newton was just like, okay, I'm seeing the effect. Why is that effect? Now, Einstein came along and he figured out general relativity. Because of this, we went from, okay, there is gravity to like, why there is gravity. So this mathematics is far more accurate and far more precise in order to describe the world, so to say. That is what we call gravity. That is right now our modern understanding of gravity. So what about light? Now light is made out of photons. Photons is the smallest energy carrier unit, and then you have to understand one core aspect of photons. They always travel in a straight line. Nothing can change their path, like unless they interact. That's the rule. Like light is, let's say, traveling directly straight. You put a mirror, it interacted, twing, bounce back, no problem. Now if you have prism, light interacted, that's why it's changed its direction. If it's traveling without interaction, it will not change its path. Now let's say how long, like how far it can go without changing its path. Well, till infinity, technically till infinity. So let's say you fire a laser pointer and photons are like properly parallel, they will keep remaining parallel until like end of time, so to say. Literally, they will not change their direction. However, you can change their direction by changing the path they are traveling in. Think of it this way. Let's say I'm a dude and I walk in this direction. What will happen if I keep walking straight? I will keep coming back here. Exactly. Why? Because earth, the surface which I'm walking on, is curved. The same thing applies to the light. From light's perspective, is always traveling straight. It's just the path itself bended around it. So space-time caused the bending of light. That is what we call gravitational lensing. So how much this path bent? Now that's the interesting aspect. So theory was that massive objects, as in very massive objects, because in principle everything as light as just me or my hand is standing here will should supposed to bend light. Is it doing that? Absolutely. How much? Yeah, don't try to calculate that. That will be like, yeah, an exercise of how many zeros you can calculate to. So it will like 0.0000000. That's the whole point. So in mathematics, to reach a point where it's like, okay, now you can see the observed outcome, realization, what we need stellar objects, basically something big and massive like our sun. So again, even moon does that, earth also does that, but you need something as big and massive as sun to be like, okay, even with our current equipments we can actually tell whether it's doing this or not. Again, measurements are always there, but you cannot measure something with what we classify as unlimited precision. That simply does not happen in physics. So sun was selected as a primary object. Now the bending, that is the critical aspect. The bending can be calculated, because in science it's not important, it's not enough to just say, oh, light will bend. No, you have to tell which direction it will bend and by how much. Now by how much, it's directly let's say a vague measurement. You cannot give unlimited accuracy, but you can say like, okay, I think by 1.8 inch, let's say most, and you measured it, turns out 1.75, that's accurate. But let's say you measured, you said 2 inches and it turns out only 1, that's deviation of 50%. At that point people will be like, bro, your mathematics needs to be more refined. So this whole reason the Einstein is popular is simply because the prediction he did mathematically is like, okay, this thing will happen and by this much deviation will happen. That was horrifyingly accurate. It was like, dude, he said it and it happened. So that's the main point. That's why we know gravitational effecting happens. So when did we observe it? Like, it's one thing fun and dandy to do maths on a chalkboard and all that jazz, but when the heck did we observe it? The first time where we like, no, this is real, this is as real as it gets, happened on May 29, 1990. What is important about that? There was a solar eclipse then. Now you want to see something bending, something else. So what do you want to observe? You want to observe a star. Okay, cool, awesome. What will cause the bending? Sun. here's the problem. If sun like there is a star between you and things you want to observe, you're only gonna observe the light of the star, because again it will overwhelm everything else. So we waited for that eclipse. That's the interesting part. Now that was a total eclipse. Within its path where the eclipse shadow will fall, there will be total darkness, so you can actually see the night sky. That's the important part. So during that, they calculated based on all previous measurement. There's supposed to be this star which should go behind sun. Basically, sun should eclipse that star itself, but that did not happen. Why? Because light was bending around. We observed that aspect. So then we were like, okay, yeah, we can observe that. And this was not done only like in one place. This was done on South America and Africa. Basically, there were two teams, so to say, and both of them tried to do this, and both of them got the accurate measurement. So we knew it was not like a malfunction of any equipment or things of that nature. It was like absolute. So observation was like confirmed that, like, boom, done, this works. So this was like very subtle effect. Like, even with, if I give you the photo plates that they people use to actually figure it out, you have to know what you're looking for in order to figure it out. However, once we started to make bigger and bigger and bigger telescope, more better and more requirement, specifically the equipments that are outside our atmosphere, we started to see something more bizarre, more awesome, like Einstein cross. Basically, you are seeing one massive object, one super bright object behind it, and the effect is such that there is like four independent parts. So you are seeing basically four dim shadows of an object, not shadow, like basically after image of an object. And there are some scenarios where you are seeing basically one supermassive stuff, like let's say supermassive black hole in the center of a galaxy, causing light in such a way that the whole ring is created. Basically, if you move lens in front of something, you will see that exact lens bounding that we saw. So we went from little bit of pixel here, not pixel, like a grains, light grains moving from here to there, to like, oh, this is a gravitational lensing. Like, if I show this image to a person who does not know anything about lensing, they're like, did you put a lens here or something like that? So we have observed it. It's not something we are guessing or hoping. It's something that we have observed, calculated, calibrated, and predicted. It's done. So now we reach into the classification of this scenario. So these are generally classified in three main categories. Category number one, strong. Basically, you see the photo, you like, dude, there is a lens effect here. Done. You don't even have to think about it. Now, generally, these are caused by very big, massive objects, like big boys. So you are talking about galaxies minimum and super clusters, basically hundreds of galaxies causing this kind of light bendings. Then we come to the weak aspect. Now, this was the most tedious aspect, simply because weak effect is, again, it's weak. So how the heck you gonna observe it? You have to observe for a long period and observe a lot of things. Then you will find, okay, the star's supposed to be like this and they are looking little bit distorted. Now again, even this image is like, a bit more exaggerated, but that's the whole point. The effect would be very subtle, but you can observe it if you are observing hundreds of things. Now, let's say you are observing whole hemisphere of a sky over a long period of time, let's say 6 months, 7 months, or even 10, 12 years. Then you will like, oh, okay, I'm getting it. Like, then you will start to see the pattern. So it's classified as statistics based system. So if you can understand, say, then you're like, okay, this is how it is. Now, these effect, why it's so weak? Well, there are many reasons for it. Think of this one. There is this object that you are observing. There is super massive object of gravity in front of it. What if the object is here? Then if light bending is very little. Now that's the whole reality. Most of the time, Earth is not in a place where it's perfect vantage point for everything. That does not happen. So we start to calculate a lot of things over a large period of time. Then it's like, whoa, now we are creating a gravitational map of this world. However, this is the reason why gravitational lensing is such an interesting thing. It showed us dark matter. This is the reason why we can definitely say there is dark matter, because of this gravitational effect. And that's the only property of dark matter known to us so far. Then we come to micro one. Now this is the most interesting for average humans, so to say, because it's a long-term picture. Basically, if you have any telescope which is looking at one star and it's like, bro, I'm gonna focus on you, that's it. All the planet hunting systems, basically. So the moment there is a star and a planet goes in front of it, for a brief moment the brightness of the star goes up. It's like, why the heck? That's like gravitational lensing is happening. Basically, instead of getting an eclipse, there's supposed to be an eclipse, you are seeing light bending around it and you are seeing a star going brighter. Now, based on how long that took, like, you will create a rough model. Let's say put X is the diameter of the star. The blinking took, let's say, 8 hours. Normal planets generally take 8 hours to do that. Now you do that for, let's say, 3 months. For every 3 months it will repeat. Based on just these data, you will know, okay, what is the gravitational value of the planet, what is the atmospheric composite, because again, light brightened and all that, and what is the orbit length and all that. So much information can be glanced between microsystem. Basically, it's like a telegram to the stars, so to say. It does work. It can be done with stars, planet-based objects, even to the moons. Our equipments are so good right now is that you can actually say, oh, that planet, it actually has a moon orbiting around it, because that will also cause another gravitational lensing. Again, but it does require observation over a long period of time. So strategist one is like observe so many things. This one is like you observe that. This is like a sniper thing. You are observing that, keep observing that exact thing over a very long period of time. So we have specifically started to utilize this to add extra layer of planet hunting tools, so to say. So what we can expect in the future? Now, gravitational lensing is a done thing. It's like we know what it is, how does it work, and like how to calculate it. So we are utilizing it for the biggest mystery of our time, dark matter. So dark matter is like, you start dark matter, you will end up with gravitational lensing. That's it. Like right now, that's the only tool that allows us to see the distribution of dark matter. So all R&D starts and ends there right now. So that's a very big field of study. Then we come to another aspect. Our space is a dynamic thing, it's not static. So understanding that is also important for us. So we to understand 3D dynamic nature of that, because everything is moving everywhere else and everything has a direction, trajectory and all that. Utilizing gravity itself as a tool, we can create much more accurate basically maps. Then we are talking about micro lensing, which is most important for everything. Basically test satellites, they are, these satellites will be observing multiple stars continuously for years to come. So this will allow much higher precision data gathering. So people are expecting we will go from like, okay, now we have like, right now I'm talking about like 4,000 confirmed known exoplanet to 50-60,000 exoplanet in few years, simply because this will start to yield result, because it's a long-term observation, and one passing in front of it will not teach you much, but 2 or 3, then you're like, okay, this is the orbit, this is the path, this is the month, and everything you can figure out now. And if we somehow in the future figure out how to launch James Webb Telescope, once we have data from this, during that lensing effect, if the James Webb Telescope can focus on it, utilizing the spectrum graph it has, we can not only tell the gravity of it, but also the atmosphere. So there is a lot of potential into this. So this was my presentation on basically gravitational lensing. I hope you liked it, learned from it. In that case, please click the like button, share it amongst your friends. That will help me a lot. If you didn't like it, didn't enjoy it, I'd urge you to press dislike, press it twice to show me extra disappointment, and please leave a comment because I try to reply to all of them. Subscribe, press the bell icon if you're free, and as always, thanks for watching.